ever eaten moldy chocolate?
The tardigrade? I'm Jasmine.
Swear on Satan, I'll do that.
That's my headcanon.
Okay, into it, all of it.
I'm Mells.
I love it. Dumb.
Wait a minute. And if you're watching TV,
I love it. Make sure it's damn fine TV.
This is amazing. That was awesome. Oh my God. Okay.
Hey, Jasmine, are you doing anything tonight?
No, I'm free. What are you up to?
Well, I was thinking of having a slumber party.
Ooh, count me in, girl. Yes. And maybe the Finers would like to join us.
Come on in. We got plenty of room.
The drill is hot. The beers are cold.
Ooh. Don't eat the cookies. Don't eat the cookies.
Yeah, well, we are here with another installment of Damn Fine TV Goes to the Movies. And you probably already know this because you clicked on the video, but we're going to be talking about Slumber Party Massacre, the 2021 remake, reboot, reimagining. I did call it a requel in our Scream coverage, and that is not correct. I would like to go back and say, no. I think I know what I was thinking of at the time, but I was misremembering certain details. And I don't think it technically qualifies as a requel anymore. So
Okay. I guess it is just an old-fashioned reboot, huh?
It kind of is, although I do like the word reimagining. When I first saw that, I was like, all right, that's a little like fancy, but it does make sense for what happened.
True. Yeah, it is a reimagining of it. I like that. Okay, yeah. We'll roll with that.
So I thought maybe we could really quickly kind of summarize the original films, just in case somebody is joining us without any prior knowledge, or they're not even going to watch the new movie. They just want to hang out and watch us talk about this one. So the original one is from 1982, and it's centered around Trish and a few of her friends from high school. She decides to have a slumber party while her parents are out of town. Meanwhile, of course, a mass murderer, Russ Thorne, has escaped and is on the loose. He makes his way to Trish's place. People die via power drill. There's some final girls involved. And it's very cheesy. It's very 80s. It's I think in its original form, it was really meant to be a parody, like a full satire, but then it wound up kind of walking the line between that and a full-on slasher. So it's pretty funny. It's kind of shocky. I know you rewatched it recently, so maybe you could give us some more details as we move through of like differences, comparisons, whatever, stuff like that. But
for sure.
But yeah, and just to note, it was written and directed by women. And in fact, all of the movies in this franchise are both written and directed by women, which I think is kind of incredible. I think it's the only like horror franchise that can say that. So that's pretty fucking awesome.
Very good. Yes, absolutely.
And then the sequel came around in 1987. This time it centered around Courtney, who was Trisha's neighbor from the original film. She survived the attacks from that night, of course, and she's now a senior in high school. She's going to go away for her birthday. She brings some friends. So it's like it's a long distance slumber party or whatever, or, you know. And she starts having these dreams of the original killer, who has kind of been reincarnated as like a greaser, basically, and has this like fantastic guitar with a drill bit on the end of it. It is even sillier than the first one, and it all has to do with that guitar, which he absolutely strums before each kill, which is
absolutely
just fantastic. It's one of my favorite things about this franchise. And he obviously, like, he winds up being real. He is at the party. He is once again the party pooper of the slumber party. But then the end of that movie, like, Courtney wakes up and she's in a psych hospital, maybe.
Yeah.
So we never really know if the events of that film are even real. The third one came out in 1990. It doesn't follow really the original structure apart from there being a slumber party. So fuck that film, basically.
Yeah, it really was the stinker of that trilogy.
I think so. And I know it's gotten a cult following, much like the original two, but I don't think it's as strong. I mean, I didn't even know about the third one until months after I had seen the first two. So And of course, the 2021 version really only reimagines the first one with a few callbacks, and with a few callbacks to the second one. So I think that's okay that we just focus on those two. But the 2021 version basically opens with this reimagining of Trish and her friends at the slumber party, but this time they're at a lake house, but still with Russ and his drill. And then from there, the movie jumps kind of ahead to present day, and we follow Trish's daughter and her friends. And I don't want to say too much more because we're going to try to have like a kind of a spoiler-free chat about it up front, and then we'll dig into spoilers. So I've been talking for a while. What are your overall thoughts, spoiler-free, on the 2021 reboot, reimagining, whatever you want to call it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, I was into it. I didn't know what to expect because I think, well, first of all, I think this is on Sci-Fi, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if like Sci-Fi just like produced it and
okay, because I
like,
feel like I caught it on TV.
But
Yeah, but that doesn't mean I was on, but that doesn't mean it was on a channel. It could have been on something. I mean, I saw it was coming up, or it was available to watch somehow, through TV, and that's how I figured out that it was done by Sci-Fi, which I think is really cool. So I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I could tell by the poster or from the artwork that it was obviously going to be modern day, but I didn't know how closely it was, going to follow the 80s movies. And I very pleasantly surprised, and I was into it. I liked the liberties they took with changing up some of the roles and things like that in this reimagining or this reboot. I mean, dare I even say I hate to say that I liked it better than the original because, like we talked about, the original was supposed to be like very campy and it was supposed to be funny. And then, like we said, it actually like got this huge response of not from it being particularly on the funny side, but for it being a horror film, So, but I just like the direction they took a lot of the traditional tropes in horror films and gave it to like different characters and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this reboot or this reimagining of it.
Well, that makes me really happy because I also very much love this film, and I also didn't know what to expect. I honestly, when I heard they were remaking it, I just figured they would probably be doing maybe not a shot for shot, but kind of just bringing it into the modern day and maybe giving it a fresh new look and some better graphics and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I really had no idea where the story was going to go. And, as cheesy and silly and weird as the original ones are, I really, in my heart of hearts, think that they are feminist films. And it's not just because it's women behind the camera. I mean, the dialogue and just like the subversion of things that they were doing. I mean, the murder weapon is like this phallic shaped symbol, and yet they don't do the things that you expect them to do with it that would be like so easy and, like low hanging fruit. And like, so I'm really kind of grateful that they brought it into the modern day because I think there was more to say. And I think that with like, 30 years between now and the original, there's a lot more nuance to these topics and subjects that I think they were really able to tap into and like really revive this franchise and give it a fresh new look, basically. But also, I think they were able to say more and dive a little deeper into, like you were saying, these tropes. And I'm just really grateful for it. Like I'm super here for this update. I will say, I don't know that I love the characters specifically, but I like what they stand for.
Yeah.
And typically that will bother me. Like if your character doesn't really have like an interior and they're mostly just a shell of like symbolism, but I think it works in this kind of a movie because they're really just driving the plot and they're really just kind of driving this overarching idea. And I'm in love with the overarching concept enough that it's not that I don't care at all about these characters, but I'm not like, I don't go away from the film being like, oh my God, I can't wait to see like Maeve and something else. Like
Right.
I would love to see that actress in something else. I thought she was great, but I'm not like, oh my God, Maeve Die Hard or something, you know? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, and yes, I love all the role reversals. I mean, to be binary about it, it's pretty much between what women would usually have to do, but this time we get to see men doing it, and some of it is very funny.
So good.
Like
So
there,
good.
and you know what? This movie is a lot scarier than the originals, I think, although it wasn't like it's not the kind of thing that makes me run back from my bathroom in the middle of the night, you know,
Yeah.
like we see
Yeah.
sometimes, but it's definitely got a more suspenseful edge to it, I think, than the originals. But also, I appreciate its humor a lot more. I think because of what it's doing with like sort of the subversion or the inversion of certain tropes. Like it's kind of, there are those moments when you're like, okay, see what you're doing there. And I'm digging that. I like that, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and I agree with everything that you've said. I love just the what am I trying to say here? Okay, so it is such a slasher,
Yeah.
and it's a really good modernized version of those types of suspenseful slashers that got started in the 80s. So it's a very good, I know we keep saying reimagining, but that's actually the perfect word for it because it still has all of those like 80s suspenseful slasher vibes to it. That's what I love about, like, I'm into that kind of horror. I like, some other types too, but like slashers are my main like
Right.
bag. That's what I
Yeah.
really dig. And so that's what I really loved about it, is that it still kept that who's like that the point of view of the killer type thing, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mhm.
And not so much like you see the killer like lurking around, and there are instances of that, but that, because that's what the original Slumber Party really did, was a lot of point of view when, Russ was killing. I mean, you knew what he looked like and you saw him, but a lot of the killing was point of view, like it's the
Yes.
drill and then it's the person,
Yeah.
right? That the victim.
So
This
like
did
we're
that really
seeing
well.
things like as if we're Russ. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's something that I really like in horror, especially when it comes to the slasher vibes, like Halloween and stuff like that. You get a lot of point of view with the killing and that. I guess not to be so like all the killing, but you know what I mean. So
I do.
uh,
It's definitely a style, and I think it was employed a
yeah.
lot at a certain point. I mean, I think we see that a lot in Sleepaway Camp too. And
Yes.
I think a lot of it is used because it's like you don't know who the killer is. So it does a really good job of keeping that mystery as well.
100%. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I loved it, and it's something that I will watch over and over again because it was just a great reboot of this film.
Yeah, I'm really glad that we decided to cover it because I really enjoyed. It's funny, I had to watch it during the day just because that's the time that I had to watch it and take my notes. So like I don't have curtains in my living room, so I put just like a big sheet over the window so that it would actually be like nice and dark in here for me to watch it. But um yeah, just a couple of other like spoiler free notes. I really kind of tapped into this whole thing about like there was something overall in this movie that kind of spoke to me on this level of like, and I'm sure it's because women are responsible for it. So they're seeing it from a perspective that's at least kind of similar to mine, right? But that the thing that we're like, women aren't afraid of like the big bad evil in the woods. We're like afraid of being underappreciated and undervalued and dismissed, which is what happens with the guys at the cabin across the lake, right? And like this idea of like this toxic culture of masculinity, which really has nothing to do with Russ. I mean, actually it does a little bit, I would say, but it comes more to life in other ways, I guess. And
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I really enjoyed that. And also public washrooms. Thank you for showing how real that shit
Oh,
is, because that was disgusting. And that is like, I don't think men have to think about it in the same way as women. And also they can like very easily just go pee outside. But like, I'm serious, when you have to use a public washroom, it's like traumatizing.
absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Um, and then yeah, talking about the direction, I also feel like there's a point in the movie where we slip from one kind of direction into another, almost like we move even further into that, trying to keep the killer a mystery kind of vibe. And like, I feel like a large portion of the movie is more comedic slasher. And then towards like the last quarter, I would say, it
Uh-huh.
becomes almost like we get these like really quietly ominous shots of like the cabin, or there's a shot of like some blood going down a drain that I was like just so strangely captivated by. And I was like, this, I don't think we see this in the first half. Like this doesn't fit in, but it fits in now.
Yeah,
And just like some creepy shots of the woods and stuff. And I don't know, I really appreciated that too.
for sure. Yeah. And I mean that's yeah, what I love, because I mean, like, the POV stuff is great. And then also, I mean, not to discredit when we do see, when we are more the audience and it's all laid out in front of us, which, I think was, like you said, a big part of like the whole beginning and even past the middle there of the movie. So, I mean, I love that. But I think I got really super, super into it though when we made that shift and it became more like, okay, so what's going on here and who's doing this and what am I missing? Yeah, that
Yeah.
that that element of surprise is always great.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think let's just dive into it. Let's get spoilery. Yeah.
Okay, yes, let's get spoilery.
Okay. So I think the first thing I have to ask you, like, did you see this twist coming where these ladies are they know what they are getting into and they are here on a fucking mission?
Never, never.
Same. Nope.
And
Like,
that's kind of the point, to be honest. And I mean, it is fairly early, in the movie. But that was the point where I was like, we're dealing with something super modernized that I really like. I mean,
mhm,
because we've got modern, horror that comes out that is still reminiscent of the original Slumber Party Massacre, right? I love that this time around it was like, okay, well, we do open up and we do see the original events take place, and when we come into what would be present day with the I mean, I even speaking from a personal perspective, I've always liked like true crime, but I feel like I've been able to dive
mhm.
even more into it and be more in tune because now we have things like podcasts and we have YouTube and we have like all of these different mediums. And it's not just me waiting on Friday nights for a Dateline. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Um, and so that's what I really appreciated about it, because it's like obviously I know one character's daughter is directly involved in it, but it affects them all because they're like, fuck it, I'm tired of it being violence against females, and
Yeah.
females can't stand up for themselves, and it's always women that are the target, and we're going to go out there and take care of this guy, and we're just going to get rid of him, and we have a whole plan ahead of us, and that's it. It's going to be lights out for old Reci Poo. So yeah, I was really into that.
Fucking loved this twist. And I mean, it just, I was already really enjoying whatever this was going to be. And then that just like kicked it into high gear for me. And I was 100%, like 150% all in. I loved when the bell dings, like the timer dings, and then they're like pillow fight and they get all their fucking weapons out. I was just like, I remember that first watch turning to Tyler and being like, wait, what? And just getting like so excited. Yeah.
Like honestly, because well, I thought, okay, so I thought it was like ding, cookies, or the cookies are ready, and then they did it. So yeah, but so when that happened, I was like, what? Wait a minute, what? What are
Yeah.
we? But then I also thought to myself, what weird way is this going? Because my first thought was not that they were there to track Russ and dispose of him. Then I was like, what kind of weird, not, I mean, like, well, what kind of weird shit are they going to get into? And then Russ is going to stumble upon it. And, because I was still trying to connect it, obviously, to
recreating what's happening, right?
Yeah.
Like, because that's kind of what the guys across the lake are doing in a way. I mean, we can get into their pillow fight, which was
we
the
have
best
to later.
fight, but it feels like they're more into the recreation of it all without really being concerned because they're not worried that this guy is going to come after him, even though they do make a good point that Russ is pretty equal opportunity in terms of the kills, but like his main objective is to get everybody out of the way so that he can get to these ladies having the slumber party. That's always his MO, right? So they're not as concerned. Like, of course they're going to go and stay in this murder cabin. Like, why would that be an issue for them? But these girls have become like packing weapons and being ready with a plan. And I love how in that moment that totally like recontextualizes the whole speech that Dana gives beforehand, where she's like, this is about us finding ourselves and having this adventure. And at the time you're like, yeah, that's cool. They're going to go and do some drugs in the woods and it's going to turn into a slasher or whatever. But now it's like, okay, this is amazing. This is a revenge plot, but it's also about like, young women like finding their way on their own apart from their parents. What is their identity? I think it adds such a really nice layer to what is just a slasher,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah.
Well, and speaking of when that first happens, because it's kind of spurred on because Alex comes back inside and she's covered in blood. Wow, that scene when she finds the mechanic and his eyes are gouged out. Call back, I think, to the first one, to the pizza guy. But the way that blood goes in her mouth is one of my favorite moments in the movie. It's so disgusting, but it's such a like, okay, we're here, we're doing it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so gross, though. I hate that shit.
So disgusting. But I love it. I can't help but love it. I love gore like that. I don't know. All right. So what else? I mean, yeah, I guess we can get into kind of the stuff with all the guys and
let's do
the kind of like role reversals, the gender swapping of stuff. So, let's just talk about the pillow fight with the feathers.
Let's just do it. Yeah.
It's so great because it's got all of the elements, like the slow-mo, the music, they're spraying each other with a beer. So it's like a wet t-shirt contest, but it's just their chests. I mean, it is such a fantastic sequence.
It is so good. It reminded me of Zoolander.
Yeah.
It had a Zoolander feel to it, but then also you're right. Like this is, I loved everything about it too, because the guys were kind of like airheady, which is kind of what you would see about the girls and, the old school slashers, they're kind of ditzy or whatever. And so I just loved seeing it in a room full of guys. Also the fact it started off and I wouldn't say I knew that I definitely didn't know it was going to go in this direction, but I had a feeling that whatever they were doing over there, I know they said murder tour or whatever, but I was like, there's going to be something else here because of the way that they were like, the two guys that went over to their cabin when they were like, well, we've got to go. And then when they got outside, they were like, I'm not getting killed by those feminist women. Did you see them? And they were with all those weapons
you're always hearing about.
And haters. So I kind of, when that happened, I kind of was like, okay, so what are we going to walk into when we get over to that cabin? Did not disappoint. I loved how there were two guys.
Yeah.
This was
five of us, but there's only two guys.
The whole bit was hilarious because also, you have certain names that certain girls have, like Ashley or Brittany, like those types of names that you see a lot in like, horror films or whatever. So I just love that it was two guys named Guy. Yes.
Or also just like in the credits, sometimes you'll see like girl 1, girl 2, or like red shirt 1, red shirt 2. So really first watch through, I was like, are we really just calling them guy 1 and guy 2? Like literally guy #1, guy #2. Like that's not actually like guy. I get it is a name, but I really thought that's what they were going for. And then they elevated it by taking it to that actual, like, no, there's 5 dudes, but just 2 guys. And I love that line when, I think it's John or one of the dudes is like, why is guy 2 dead? And Ashley responds by being like, all dead is 2 dead.
Yeah, exactly. It is so good. It is so good. Yeah, again, like they're in their skivvies, and they're having that pillow fight and the spraying of the beer, and you see it, the up close of their chests and the feathers going everywhere. I just loved that the group of girls were just looking in on it like, what is happening here?
Yeah. This is not what we thought we were walking over to at all.
Oh, it was so good. It was so good.
And the other one, I believe his name is Sean. He found a guitar in the closet, which is obviously the guitar from the second film, which is such a great callback. And then his death actually involving a guitar string, I thought was just like mwah, chef's kiss.
It was
perfect.
Great. When I tell you, I was like, all right, I minted this. It was just, and I loved that. It's kind of like in the first one, when they answer the door, the original, like when they answer the door and the pizza guy, but they have this whole interaction and the pizza guy's dead. Like they're like, oh, did you pay? Like they have this whole conversation, right? And they're like, okay, but it's like when they try to take the pizzas when he falls into the house dead. So this was great because it was like he was standing there the whole time, just getting his face melted by this guitar string. And I was like, this is great. You would not be standing, and this is like phenomenal. I love it.
And it's so interesting because like I love the fact that I don't feel any kind of way for this guy because first of all, he had his bros before hoes sweatshirt, but he was also one of the guys that was just, that's where I got the whole idea of like being ignored and dismissed and underappreciated because you have 5 ladies come into your cabin that all have weapons, that have a plan, that understand what's going on. And then these 3 dudes with a guitar and some chair legs think that they're going to fucking take this driller killer down. And it's so frustrating, but it's so on point and so perfectly stated. Like that's so real. That is so real. And even the guy, I think his name's John, that is like, no, I think these ladies know what they're talking about. Like, I think we should listen to them. And then, sorry, my toxic masculinity is kind of making me follow along with these dudes. And it's like, what? Like nobody's ever spelled it out like that. But yeah, that's what it is.
It was so good. And honestly, when they were like, do y'all not have weapons or whatever? So like, when they did, they were like this, the guitar. But I died too when they flipped that chair over and like tore that leg off that chair. I was like, not this. What are you going to do with that?
I mean, points for creativity and trying to use the materials around you, but try harder.
Yeah, definitely.
What other funny stuff or what other like role reversal type stuff? I mean, I guess there's also the shower scene.
Okay, you read my mind because I was about to say the biggest thing, because so I didn't rewatch the reboot recently, but I did go back obviously and I rewatched the original. And so what really stuck out for me was that we do have the shower scene in the original after they're done, playing basketball. And it is very like,
right. Yeah.
The camera is like, it's just titties. Okay. I don't know. Can you say that on YouTube? I don't know. But I'm just saying like, and then like you see the girl like washing her butt crack. And I was like, we don't need all this. Like, this is unnecessary. But I loved it that they did that with a man or, like a male in this when he's just out there like taking a refreshing shower. And then mayhem happens.
Like there's a lot there. Like there's an elongated, just like camera sitting, showing his butt.
But it was so reminiscent of that, like from the original. And I was like, this is perfect because that's what, like we want to see. We want to see nudity, but I mean, like we want to see the male in the vulnerable, positions like you would see a female. So it was
Well, I
great.
mean, if it makes sense for a woman to be naked in a scene, then it probably makes just as much sense for the man to be naked in the scene. So the fact that there's been such an imbalance of that throughout filmmaking history is just bonkers to me. Like,
Agreed. Yeah.
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 But
It was
then
great.
they made it funny because he gets killed right through the heart tattoo, which is incredible.
What was it? Oh, it wasn't Mom. It was
Lila.
Okay,
Because
that's what
Tyler came home during that scene today and was like, "Oh, it's your favorite scene, and look, it's you on the tattoo because that's my middle name."
Okay, all right. I knew it was a name. I did remember it wasn't Mom, but yeah,
It
I was
looks like a
like,
classic mom tattoo, though.
I mean, honestly, I would have been surprising if it had been. But the whole time that when that was happening, I was like, oh, poor Lila. Well, now that I know the name, I'm like, he's dead, Lila. He's dead.
He's dead.
But that was the beginning, though, obviously, of what we were saying earlier, where it started to turn around, because at this point, the girls have like defeated Russ.
Yes.
Who is supposed to be our killer, but then you get through. Okay. Also, why is there a shower curtain? So many questions. This is an outside shower. I've used an outside shower before at like resorts and stuff. They don't have shower curtains outside.
Really?
No, it's usually like
I guess,
or it's like a in a enclosure or something like that.
Gotcha.
So it's not really a curtain unless I've been to the nudie resorts. No. So I just thought it was hilarious, but so it was real reminiscent of like the classic slasher, right? Because you just see the shadow of the person behind the shower curtain, and then it just it's the drill. So it's like, but I thought Russ was dead. Like they really
it's the
really
saw
killed
at
him.
this point, which I think is so funny that whoever takes over, I mean, we can just say like it's Russ's mom that takes over. I love the fact that she keeps using these power tools, but not the power drill. But it's like they're the power tool family of murderers or something. Because later she's gonna have a nail gun and stuff. I found that very funny.
The nail gun was fantastic. And it's things like that. I've never seen that before. So that's what I'm saying with them elevating like this suspenseful horror. It's not just a drill or somebody with a knife or knives for fingers,
guitar
whatever. Right. Yeah. A machete. Like this was a fucking nail gun. And I loved the nail gun scenes. I mean, because that's scary. Because you have no clue, A, where it's coming from, or B, like where is it going to hit?
Where it's going to land or what it might hit and then, ricochet off of and crash. Yeah, that whole thing was really suspenseful and really tense the whole time. Yeah. I will say another surprise for me genuinely was the fact that they killed Russ and that there was still more movie left to go. Because I sort of assumed, which I think I shouldn't have at that point, given how much they had, changed around and really, freshened up. But I figure, okay, well, they'll kill him towards the end, but they'll leave room for a sequel probably. Like, why not? Right. But the fact that they take him down, Alex like hacks this man to death because she didn't want to be left out, and like I feel you, girl. And then also like Dana takes a second round, very smart. They always come back. Good for you. Way to go and kill them the second time. And then I love the fact that, there's a whole trope about, well, the body's going to disappear. And so you think maybe like somehow this dude survived. Like, I mean, that's a slasher for you. Sometimes they're kind of superhuman. So maybe he came back.
Like Michael Myers.
Yeah. But then this had a kind of like a Mrs. Voorhees vibe to it.
100%. And I was here for it. I mean, I don't want to just keep repeating, but it really did it for my like slasher nostalgia. Yes. It really hit all the marks for me in that. So like the Mrs. Voorhees, the body disappearing, because I mean through the whole thing I was like just thinking about Halloween. I'm like, okay, well he got shot so many times and then they looked over the railing and he was gone, so
yeah.
And of course it would be like, it's like also Scream too, where they know the rules of what they need to do. We need to kill him. We need to go back a second time, make sure he's dead. And then you need to sit here and watch the body. Do not leave this body because it will get, and then what they left the body and then boom, it was gone.
Yeah. And even their plan for afterwards, and at one point, I think it might be Ashley that's like, no, we should call the cops now. Like shit's getting too real. And I think maybe it's Dana that says like, and what are they going, like, are they going to believe us? Like we came out here with these weapons. They're just going to think that we lured him into it. And I mean, Kay pretty much says as much later on when she's like you should have just gone to sleep and not tempted him, which is like, what the fuck? And Dana's response of him being, or of her being like, he's a grown man and we didn't make him do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
That was another really like real, almost too real line for me.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, yeah, the message that was in this as well was really great because I mean, like, all of the toxic masculinity, and then with the role reversal, with it being like, hey, we are not little scared girls that can't defend ourselves. And then also an overbearing parent type that, has not gotten their child the right kind of help, whatever it may be, but instead just continue to enable with that type of talk of like, oh, you wore that. Well, whatever happened to you, maybe you were asking for it. So that's it's the same thing. Like, well, if you had just not had the cookies and then tried to have a pillow fight, he would have left you alone. It's like, get the fuck out of here with that. Yeah.
And the cookies is so fucking creepy. Like, I feel so bad for Alex and all that vomiting, but girl, don't never eat food that strangers give you. That is
never
an old school rule.
Hey, 101. Let me tell you, I love, like, well, when I worked in an office and, and the world was different, way back when we would have potlucks. Like, I love y'all as coworkers. I'm not eating your food. I don't know what's going on.
I mean, we have to be close for you to be making me food.
You have to be my friend. I have to have been in your house.
Potluck, everybody brings takeout.
There you go.
Yeah. For some reason, I trust those people. Maybe because they're getting paid to do it.
I guess it's a weird concept if you really stop and think about it, because you're like, well, I don't know what they're doing either. But it's just this weird thing, right? Where I'm like, I've never been to your house. I've never seen you prepare anything. Therefore, I'm not going to eat it. Thank you.
I don't know how many cats you have wandering around on your counters. So thank you.
No. Listen, this is what sealed it for me. And we'll get back to Slumber Party. But this happened to me in real life, IRL. Okay. Or RIL, as I like to say.
RIL, as we say. Yes.
We had a holiday potluck at work. This was several years ago, but someone bought a turkey and it was already like it was a store bought, so it was turkey. Like,
sure.
Somebody bought it from the store. Nobody prepared it, right? And that was fine. Right. But someone did, take the meat off of, the turkey so we could, we didn't have to cut it, all that kind of stuff. There was a woman that I worked with that fished the turkey carcass out of the trash to take it home and make broth. And that is what sealed it for me, that I will never eat someone else's.
Out of trash? Was it like a new bag? That's still not okay.
No. And she wasn't trying to be coy about it. She legit was like, where did the carcass go? And someone was like, we threw it away. And she went over there and dug it out, put it in a plastic bag, and took it home. And when someone asked her why, she said, I'm going to make broth from it. And I was like,
Please do not bring that in for next week's potluck because nobody will be eating it, okay?
Yeah, that was a mark. I was like, Mark, do not eat their food.
That is disgusting.
So there you go, people. That was my one time, that was my freebie for y'all to reinforce that if you don't know who they are, don't eat their food, okay?
Ew,
that was a real life example, not just I got poisoned by the cookies from old Rusty Pooh's mom. Okay.
But yeah, this poor kid, I did feel really bad for her. Her sister tries to stop her.
Did some Zofran stat.
Brutal. Just brutal. Yeah. I mean, it seems like she's okay by the end of it, thankfully. Like, I guess maybe she puked it all out, but Something I'm thinking of right now too is I guess there's a kind of a parallel between Trish and Kay, because in the end, they're both like very possibly overprotective mothers that are just channeling that in a much different way, right? And
True.
obviously one of them has instilled a lot more just common sense and critical thinking, Trish and Dana, to be clear. But like, because we get that comment from Dana towards the end of like, I thought that my mother had never gotten over this, but I realized that I ruined her life, which is probably not true. That's just a very like young person kind of thing to say. But the idea that she would want to show her mother that she can protect herself so that her mother can have some peace and quiet in that way was really weirdly beautiful. And it was so like teenager speak, but it was really nice also. Like it seemed like a sweet thing to do, to try and like go avenge this killer so that your mom can have some peace and quiet.
Yeah. And I mean, like, honestly, up until the whole "you should have just gone to sleep" talk
Yeah.
from I'm sorry, what I think
Kay.
Kay, that's it. Yeah. Before we even get that, like, I kind of was a little sympathetic to a degree, because
Sure.
I was like,
Sure.
I mean, if we're looking at this through somewhat of some kind of realistic lenses, I mean, it is a parent with their child. And I mean, yeah, I don't like, sorry, I love my child, but I'm not going to be in these streets killing anybody for him. But I'm just saying, like, it does kind of pull on your
Yep.
heartstrings a bit, because you're like, I mean, there, because yeah, you do try to do everything to protect your child, but you got to know when it's the right kind of way to protect them. So
Sure. You
yeah,
got to
there
know
was
when
a
they're a
lot of that.
homicidal maniac and they need to go away. And you
Yeah,
maybe take the power tools away from them.
that's what I was gonna say. Just no power tools, okay?
Yeah. Don't eat food from strangers and do not give your kids power tools. That's what we're learning. That's what
Those
we
are
are
the
learning.
takeaways. Yeah.
And I do love that in the end, it's kind of mom versus mom, and even though Trish was never able to get her revenge on Russ, she was at least able to finally like protect her daughter in this way. And I mean, we assume Kay is dead. I mean, unless they're somehow leaving that open for a sequel in a way, but I kind of almost don't want a
I wouldn't want
sequel
it.
unless they do a different thing with it. And I would trust this particular team to do something different and exciting with it. So,
Yeah, true. I think this was a good way to kind of end, because like we've talked
sure.
about, there
Yeah.
was closure there. Yeah, and that was good. And it's probably not meant to be funny, but I did kind of crack up when she cut Trisha's hand and she's like, "Oh, I can't feel anything thanks to your son."
And thank your son for that. I thought that was a great line and it was very funny.
But it was just great because you could tell on Kay's face when that happened that she was like, how come you're not screaming? I just
Yes.
chopped your hand.
Yes. And I loved the subtle nod to it at the beginning too, because I think if you're not fully paying attention on that first watch and you're not really, because Dana is listening to that true crime podcast about what happened in the beginning. And but if you don't really hear that, or you're kind of casually watching, you might not see the little, like the scar tissue on Trisha's hand as she's waving goodbye. And
Mhm.
I don't know. I liked how all of that was a little bit subtle in your first watch as well.
Same. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, because honestly, it didn't really dawn on me that was, I just was thinking, okay, well, it's an overprotective parent, which that's, I mean,
Yeah.
we exist. I'm guilty at times myself. So yeah, I really like, once it came together for me, I was like, oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, are there any kills or scenes that we didn't touch on that was a highlight for you?
I mean, no, there were two, well, one scene, and you'll have to forgive me because again, I did not rewatch this reboot recently,
That's
but
okay.
it was the friend that did get the nail in the eye. I'm sorry, that was fantastic for
It
me.
was, yeah.
I loved it. Um and the kill, I didn't really care to, like, yeah, I didn't care too much about this, but I did find it, I was chuckling a lot at, because there was so many, this is a callback to the original, is when the one guy kept opening the freezer
Yes.
because he wanted that beer. Well,
Yes.
in the original, that's what oh gosh. I want to say Kay, it was Courtney's little sister, but she wanted the beer out of the refrigerator, but old gal was like in the refrigerator. It's like every time she opened it, it was like, and then it would close. You know what I said? So that was
That's a great
great.
gag.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then
he's
he's like, what does that
"What's the
smell?
Yeah.
And then it was, he thought it was himself. And
I
then
know.
that's when he took his
fateful
little
shower.
fateful shower. That
Yeah.
fateful shower. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good gag. I like that. The only other one I think for me is I believe it's Ashley. I had all the names written down, but I think Ashley has the scrunchie. She's the one fixing the car.
Oh yeah.
I think just because it's the first of the girls to go, that it was not shocking, but I was like, okay, they're going there too. Like, this isn't over. And even the way she died, because it's no longer a drill, it's no longer a power tool, like somebody's fucking around with the car and we don't see it, but we understand enough of what's going on that like the engine basically eats her, like, so.
There are few scenes. This right here reaffirmed I don't do mechanical work and I don't plan on doing it anytime soon. This just reaffirmed it for me. Okay, just so everyone is aware. But there are things that I have been like terrified of in my life. One of them is, again, I don't do mechanical work. I'm not sure if you heard me the first few times I said that, but then no one around my house really did it either. But it's kind of like the quicksand when you're little, like you're never really going to come in contact with it, but it's an irrational fear. So I always was scared of something happening under the hood of a car. I was never in that situation. But then there was also, there's that. And then there was the part in Halloween H2O when Charlie dropped the wine opener like down the dish. Come on, Melissa, or
like the garbage disposal or whatever.
Garbage disposal, yeah. But he kept looking at the switch, and nothing ever happened. But that's another thing. Like if something goes down my garbage disposal, I'm like, I know it's a metal fork. Could that grind it up, or do I have to get it out? It's one of those. And I eventually just get the tongs
and down.
I just get the tongs. But those are like irrational fears where I'm like, I will never in my life put my whole arm or hand down a garbage disposal. I know I'm not going to do that, but
honestly,
but nonetheless, it's scary. So
and this was one of the kills too, where they were really only showing the feet of Kay. So we didn't know who it was at this point, and it felt just so much more like horror too.
Yeah, exactly. So good.
So
glad that we wanted to talk about this because it was so great to watch the original again, like I did today, and I was just like, oh boy.
I'm glad you did. I feel like that way, you had that knowledge to kind of bring into the conversation. I think that was a good idea. I'm glad you had time for it. I'm wondering, would you recommend this movie? And if you do, what kind of horror fan or non-horror fan, or like who would you recommend it to if you would recommend it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would definitely recommend it. And I mean, quite honestly, and I know I've said this over and over, but if you want old school slasher with some comedy with like a super exaggerated shit, like think Freddy Krueger. And I love all the Freddy movies, but just think about like the ridiculous kills in some of those. But so if you're just really into that sort of 80s slasher, the suspense of Friday the 13th, like I feel like I could go down the list of like our most popular 80s slashers. And even though this was a reimagination of Slumber Party Massacre, it had all these influences of, like I said, even up to Scream, where they had their little rules of like, you stay with the body, et cetera, et cetera. So if you don't want to have to think too much, because, and I enjoy horror movies that are thought provoking as well, don't get me wrong, but sometimes I just like to see people doing stupid shit and getting cut up. And if you like that, you're going to love the reimagination of Slumber Party Massacre.
I agree. I think it would be a fun movie to watch over a couple of beers with some friends. It's a great like Friday night pizza, beers. Let's just have a good time. If you're looking for something that you can dive deeper into, I still think this is a good option, especially on like a second watch. You're going to pick up some of those like deeper meanings and some of the themes that I think the creators were trying to really dive into. But yeah, it's a super easy surface watch too, if that's what you're looking for. And I think like people that haven't seen a lot of horror or who are um maybe a little like, I don't know what to call it, like sensitive towards gore and slashers, like I think this would be like a good like you
Middle.
could get into the world of it. I think like this could be your doorway into slashers, like if you need to just dip your toes a little bit first, because it definitely has gore and I do think it's suspenseful, but I don't think it's like super scary or anything. Like I don't think it will keep people up at night.
No. And it's purely the context of the scenes in which that gore happens. And I think that's what they do so well. Like, there have been some slashers that have really scared me like that. I mean, really, to where I would do crazy things to ensure that for whatever reason, this boogeyman wasn't going to get me, even though it was a movie.
The first time I saw Scream, I was genuinely fucking terrified.
Yeah. So you're right. I think this is a good middle. And when I say middle of the road, I mean like those more gory parts aren't riddled in fear as much as there's a comedic effect to it. Because even in the beginning with some of the kills with the people from the original, massacre or whatever, there was some hilarity, ridiculousness in that as well. So it wasn't just like, super vulnerable, like this is scary, it feels too real type thing. So
exactly. Yes. And I think that if you're a fan of the original trilogy and you haven't been sure of whether or not you should dive in, but you made it all the way here, still go and watch it. I think it's still worth a watch. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, I could talk about it for hours and still like leave things out that you would have to watch it to really get the full appreciation of it. So
yeah,
definitely check it out.
Yeah. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I'm glad. Like, this is not at all what I would have expected if we never really discussed. We've always said, oh, it'd be fun to talk about horror a little bit more. But then I think, Scream came out and we just jumped on that because we're huge fans. This is not what I would have thought we would have covered second, but I love this journey for us. And
I'm so into it. It was fun. It was really fun. And
really
like,
fun.
I had told Jasmine before we started recording, I was like, I kind of forgot like what a stinker the original was. And what I mean by that is that when you've already seen, like, I've seen all of those and then I've seen the reboot. So when you go back to watch the original, you're like, oh gosh, if you had just done this at this point, it would have been so great. But you have to remember it was early 80s, So, but definitely, like, even if you haven't watched those, watch those. You could really do without the third one, but you definitely want to see 1 and 2. It just it's funny, and that's what I enjoy about it.
And those are even, I mean, you could do like a marathon with friends, pizza, beer, the trilogy, but not the original trilogy, like first one, second one, new one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think next time we should do something kind of spookier, because I don't think either of us were like super scared by Scream either. We were just like, that's like our favorite film franchise or whatever. But I think we should do something spooky next.
Okay.
Might have to make you watch some ghosts or something. I don't know. Maybe we can find something in the middle. I don't know, but we'll see.
No, it's honestly, as long as it's not Paranormal Activity, I tell you what, for everybody that has taken the time, this is Brave Mel's moment right here. For everyone that has taken the time to watch this, leave a comment. Let us know what you think.
Yes.
I will face a very big fear of mine, and that is the movie Poltergeist.
Oh, I don't know if I've ever seen it.
Okay. I watched the original.
Okay.
Probably too young to have ever done it. It literally, I can't even tell you how it scarred me. It really scarred me.
Yeah.
And so when the remake came out, I said no. So many people wanted me to go with them, and I was like, I can't. You don't understand. Like this, I don't care. I don't care if it's good or whatever. So I'm here telling y'all, I will face my fears, and I will not only watch the remake, but I will watch the original again, so we can do that.
You know, I don't want you to like ruin your sleep for 17 years or anything, but I do like this idea that we keep watching what are technically remakes, reboots, requels, whatever.
I like
That's
it.
the thing that we do. So
Yeah,
let's
at
explore that
least for
sure.
now. Yeah, I mean, because the thing is we're getting a lot of that coming out, and I think it's interesting to talk about the original and then what was changed and the reasons behind it when they reimagine or reboot or whatever, requel, however they approach it, bringing it into modern times or whatever. So
Cool. Okay.
but yeah, I will face my fear because that's a big one, and I'm not joking about that.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give you time. I'm going to give you a free out on that just in case. But let's put it on the back burner. Let's think about it. Let's have a few good sleeps on it before we all lose some sleep. And I'm sure we'll figure it out. And we'll be back soon with more Damn Fine TV Goes to the Movies. But if you liked what you watched here, we do have a whole audio feed full of other episodes of things. Right now we're covering Twin Peaks, but we put out the odd episode about other TV shows like Shining Vale or Atlanta or Russian Doll. We did one about the Euphoria season 2 finale. And I mean, we're doing Twin Peaks right now, but eventually we'll be done our rewatch and we'll be moving on to other things. So you can always check us out wherever you listen to podcasts, Damn Fine TV.
Yeah. And then if you want to hang out with us on the socials, we're mostly on Instagram. You can catch us at Damn Fine TV. I am on Instagram at Superficial Mells.
And you can find me at Damn Fine Witch. And we also have a Patreon. We do other videos over there, early access to our audio episodes. We've got live hangouts. Sometimes people come and watch us record episodes, Discord channel, stickers, lots of stuff.
Yeah, so much fun.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you soon. I mean, don't say be right back.
No.
Don't have sex. Have sex, do it anyway.
Just do what you want, as long as you don't hurt somebody else.
That's true. Yeah. Just don't say be right back. I think that's right. The one thing. That's the
I like to say scare you later.
Ooh, okay. Love it.